Hey, folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And I don't often get the chance to quote one of the worst presidents in American history, but today I get that opportunity, so I'm going to take it. Uh, I know people are like, why would you quote somebody that isn't a very good president? Well, you'll see. Uh, Today is the birthday of President Herbert Hoover. Now, you may not recognize the name. I know that he's a president that we all had to learn their names, but you may not understand what he was the president over other than the United States. But he was the president during the Great Depression. Really not a good thing to be president at a time of, right? Now, to say that it's his fault would be, that's not true at all. There were a lot of things leading up to that. Calvin Coolidge had a shot at it. I mean, we had multiple years and really like a decade or so before Hoover ever came into power, where people were just making horrible decisions and taking advantage of the market and things like that. And that's what led to the Great Depression. A lot of things, might I add, that you see happening today were happening in the 1920s. There was this big economic surge. Everybody thought that America was just the tits. And then all of a sudden, the 30s came around and things started to not feel right and look right. And we realized there was a massive income inequality, and that, along with a few other things that were of major importance, ended up collapsing the stock market in what is now considered one of the worst days in American history. Now, that being said, like I said, Hoover didn't really have a lot to do with that. It's what Hoover did during the Great Depression that we need to talk about because, well, I mean, you can see the parallels in today's world. The reality is that Herbert Hoover just wasn't smart enough. He just wasn't. I'm going to make this very clear before I continue. He was a good person in some ways. He's literally known for being a wonderful humanitarian, for showering as much as he could and giving help where he can throughout all parts of the country and all parts of the world, really. Like, he's known for being a humanitarian. Unfortunately, that really doesn't do much when you are so conservative that you can't figure out how to get out of the Great Depression. And his legacy ends up being that he was such a failed president that the guy after him, a guy by the name of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, ended up being so popular that he got elected for 4 terms. So what exactly did Herbert do that was so bad? Well, when he saw what was happening with the depression, when he saw all of the markets collapsing, when he saw all of these things happening, he literally multiple times throughout the early days was like, no, 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 this will fix itself. He never really understood how drastic and how horrible things were, like the precipitous downslide that we were under. He just didn't see it. He didn't understand it. It wasn't something that he acknowledged really at all. He just thought that the market would fix itself. It'll fix itself. It'll be okay. We can't have the government getting involved. And then the further it got, the worse it got, the more that he was kind of an introvert, so he didn't really, it's a weird thing to say, but as president, he didn't like to like be in front of, the radio or anything like that. He didn't really like to speak in public. He was very soft spoken, and so the people that were against him got a chance to speak up. And this is where you get terms like a Hoover blanket is an old newspaper that people, that's all they could afford. They would go get a Hoover blanket to keep themselves warm at night, just because that's all they had. Or what was another one? I can't remember all of them right now, but there was all these different terms with his name in them for that were just about horrible things, like Hoover shoe repair is getting a piece of cardboard from a box and putting it in your shoe because you can't afford to buy new shoes, so you just do a Hoover shoe repair. And there was a bunch of other ones like this where they were just really, really fucking awful because he just didn't do anything. He just kept saying, no, it'll figure itself out. The markets will do it. It's not up to the federal government to do anything. We need to rely on other people. The really damning part of all of this is that while he absolutely refused throughout his presidency, throughout the Great Depression, to actually help, like actually financially support people, he did, however, find it in his heart to support many companies, many businesses, many corporations. Like, this is what he did. This kind of sets a precedent that we never truly recovered from, where the federal government, what we now know as bailouts, uses its money with the logic, which ends up becoming kind of one of the basis ideas of trickle down economics. The logic of, well, we'll give the rich people money and they'll spend it, right? They'll do the things with it, and then it'll get down to the people that don't have any. Like, this genuine is a thought that these people really have. The economists at the time, conservative economists, really did believe that. Well, if you give money to rich people, they're going to have to spend it, right? And they're like, when they go out to places, they spend it, and then it's in the hands of the medium people, and the medium people will spend it and give it to the poors. Like, that way we don't. There's a buffer, right? The middle class is a buffer, so that we don't ever have to touch the poors. Like, I'm not joking. That's not real. Like, I know it sounds like I'm being a tad facetious, and maybe I am, but that's really honestly what it was like. They didn't want to have anything to do with lower class. They didn't want to have anything to do with them, and so they would spend money amongst themselves, and occasionally, a few shekels would dribble down to the middle class, but for the most part, it never hit poor people. And the amount of poor people, because it was a fucking depression, grew exponentially almost by the day. And this is where, you get his, they basically ran him out of Washington, right? Like, his exit was somewhat unceremonious. People were like, he lost in a fucking landslide, and deservedly so, because how many times do you think you can hear the federal government, and I'm asking you this for today's world, not for then, how many times can you hear the federal government tell you that everything's fine, everything's good? No, you're just going to have to endure. You're just going to have to keep working on it. You're just going to have to keep, it's okay, because, all this money that we know is out there, there's trillionaires, right? People are trillionaires, people are billionaires. We know there's money, so we know it's somewhere, but it's not in the hands of any of the people of like any of the citizenry of this country, right? Like, none of us have it. They all have it. And occasionally a few coins will fall down, slip through the cracks, fall to the bottom of the mountain, and then we get to pick them up and maybe do something with them occasionally. But we're so far behind that it usually just goes back to the people that we owe money to. This is what America is today, and it's really not that much different than it was leading up to and even in parts of the Great Depression. And I think that it's important to understand that, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to quote him. Now, again, I wanted to make sure that people understood this. There are people out there, historians out there, most historians will tell you that Herbert Hoover is like one of the worst presidents, like in the bottom third of all presidents. Like, he was essentially ineffectual. He essentially didn't do anything. But there are people out there that are affected by him personally that say that he is really honestly one of the greatest Americans alive. And it really made me think of the way that Jimmy Carter was kind of perceived. And Jimmy Carter was an American hero, but the right and conservatives and the Christian coalition just vilified him to the point where many people thought of him as a joke after a while, even though this was a literal hero, literally up until the day he died. And I wouldn't say that Hoover was ever a hero, but he certainly was a kind man. But he's just been painted in the worst light because of his ineptitude in light of these economic issues. I would point out one more thing before I give you the quote, which I think is a very impactful quote. He was a racist, right? Like, he was. But he would never tell you he was a racist. There were people out there that would say he wasn't because he didn't enact policy in a racial way. He actually gave, as he put it, African Americans or black folks a shot. He didn't use, the terminology that a lot of presidents have used, like Reagan, but he absolutely, in many conversations and in many statements, made it very clear that he believed that the white-skinned people of this country were superior to the black-skinned people of this country. And I think that that's important to understand. As nice as he may have been, as good as he may have been, as much of a humanitarian as he may have been, he was very much a man of his time, and that means he was racist. Now, for the quote, and this is a good one, you're gonna like this one. Herbert Hoover once said, "When there is a lack of honor in government, the morals of the whole people are poisoned." When there is a lack of honor in government, the morals of the whole people are poisoned. We know that there is a lack of honor in our government right now, and every single day we have to fight for our own morals against the poison that is seeping out of it. So a begrudging happy birthday to former President Herbert Hoover. And to the rest of you, please take care of yourself, take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.